Today we're going to talk about maintenance and how to maintain your interactive display. So if you complete these following tasks on a regular basis to maintain your room system's interactive flat panel. We're going to talk about calibrate and orientate your interactive flat panel as necessary, how to clean the screen, clean and the presence detection sensors, clean the camera windows and the reflective tape, maintain ventilation, prevent condensation, and replacing your pen nibs as necessary. All this information is available in your product user guide found at smarttech.com. When it comes to troubleshooting, here are some critical notes that you should be aware of. First, the correct installation consists of two main parts, the hardware installation and the system configuration setup. Okay, the customer is a Microsoft Link infrastructure environment. The Smart Room System product is not a smart interactive whiteboard or a smart software experience. Meetings are not scheduled from the room system, but they are scheduled through the Link server. And content is not added from the room system, it is added by a different computer. What we're going to talk about is troubleshooting on your interactive display. A lot of the basic troubleshooting comes down to these two buttons right here. The power on button, okay, can be in three different states. It can be dark, meaning no power, receiving no power. It can be red, or it can be green, as in normal operation. Red means that there's a connection issue, okay, solid red. And the light below that is the status light. And the status light can be in actually like five or six different states. It can be dark, meaning no power. It can be red or flashing red, green or flashing green, or amber or flashing amber. Each one of these states gives us a clue, and Smart has always used the same format. So if in this case where the status light and the power on light are both green, that means this is in normal operation. If the status light was red, that would mean that there's a connection issue between the power and or the USB cable carrying the data. As long as we have an image and it's replicated from your computer screen, that's telling us that we have a video signal. If we have nothing, that means you have to go into the input selector, which is the button below, and the input selector will then take you through whether it's VGA 1, HDMI 1, HDMI 2, RGB, S-Video, composite. Okay? So primarily, these are the two buttons, and the different states are what are important. So let's run through one. The power on button is off. It's dark. What's the first things that you should be checking for? Well, the most common thing is, and the most often asked questions are, is it plugged in? Is it turned on? On the bottom of the display, there is a hard rocker on switch, a power on switch. If that switch is not on, this button will appear dark. Okay, power it on, flip the switch. It's only got two positions. So you power it to the other side. By rights, you should get something here. If you don't get something here on the power on button, then check the AC cord power outlet to make sure it's plugged in and then plugged into the wall receptacle. Okay, so in the case where the power light is green and the status light is solid red, it means there's an absence in communication between the computer and the device. Okay, what we need to do is populate that device, and that will get us a solid green status light and a solid green power on light. If it's in an amber state, that's usually a bootloader mode or a standby mode. And if it's in a green state, flashing green, means the product drivers are not being run at that time. So what we're looking for is two green lights on the bezel of the display. In our next stage of troubleshooting, if we have a solid green power on lamp and a solid green status lamp, but we have no touch, the next thing we have to check is, by using the diagnostics of the display, is why is it not reporting back that it's seeing a point of contact on the screen. To do that, we would, one of the easiest ways is to press this question mark button on the console, and we can get into the diagnostics. Now you have to connect a mouse and or keyboard to your computer, and then we're going to be able to go in and to the diagnostics. Click on Technical Support, click on Tools, click on Diagnostics, click on View, SBX 800, SBID 8000. You come up with these 10 buttons. When you're using these 10 buttons, these are imperative that you get comfortable, because these are your great diagnostic tools. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to click on the View button. When you've done this, you can see how it says camera 0, camera 1, 2, and 3. Smart's camera designation has always been bottom left is camera 0, top left camera 1, top right camera 2, bottom right camera 3. So with this tool, we're going to go to Get Image. We're going to click on Get Image with our mouse. So once you press the Get Image, touch the board with either your finger or a pen. In the model below, what you're seeing from camera 0 is, if you envisioned yourself looking from this bottom left-hand corner, what you're seeing is the long side, this area here with the small X on it, that's the opposite camera in camera 2, and then the short side. So what this camera is seeing is the long axis on the top and the short axis on the side. In the top picture, so this is a snapshot in time, what it's saying is I'm not seeing anything reflected off the top, and this black mark that you see on all 4 camera shots is the point of touch. That's creating the shadow in the IR curtain and blocking from the reflective tape. That's what's reporting back. So this is telling us that we are actually getting a touch, but for some reason it's not reporting back to the cameras. If that's the case, that means we have to do a calibrate and orientate the board. To get out of here, just exit with your mouse, exit that. We're going to go into calibration and enumeration. So with your mouse, you're going to have to click on calibration and enumeration. At this stage, you have 25 targets. You're going to pick up a pen and press the center of the target until it turns green. So it's green. Whiteboard is successfully calibrated. Now what is taking us is into orientation. So here in an orientation screen, the default is 4. What we're going to do is touch outside the circle and drag in. When it goes green, release the target. It'll save the data. To verify that this is working now, okay, we can go into back into View, SBX 800 to get the 10 bullets. We can go into the version and then update. Now that the diagnostics has given us the version, the information that we're getting here is from the DVI-T master, or the digital signal processor. It'll give us the original, the current version, the version when it was manufactured, the bootloader version, the application checksum, the bootloader checksum, and then this is very important, all the serial numbers of the DSP, the 4 cameras, and actually the serial number of the device. So it helps us out with that. So let's close that, because if the camera was not functioning, it would not populate that information back. So it's important that we be able to capture that. And especially if you have to go to the next stage where you're talking to tech support, they're going to be looking for a snapshot of that. To test our calibration and enumeration, we're going to go into the Tracker tab. In Tracker, we get a whiteboard space, pick up a pen, and touch the board. It's not so important as in the point of intersection is not directly below the pen tip, but that from the 4 corners, you can see an array from each of the 4 corners in a different color. As you can see, camera 0 is a red, camera 1 is green, camera 2 is black, and camera 3 is blue. This is telling us that everything is working. You move it around. Because this is a multi-touch board, now you touch it with 2 fingers so you can get 2 sets of arrays. When you see that the traces go, there's multiple blacks, that means that it's losing data. All right? If I touch it with more than 1, I get a confused state. It's lost its data. It doesn't know which traces to follow. But if I go back to 1 trace or 2, again, I get the 4 different colors. To get out of this, you have to press escape on your keyboard. Okay, so when resolving issues with the console is your connection from between the computer and the display. If the power light is off, that means that it's not receiving power, so you have to check the power connection. So make sure that, ensure that the console is connected to the power supply to the wall. If it is solid amber, that means we're receiving power, but the signal may not be connected to the link appliance. So you have to refer to troubleshooting on it. And then if it's solid green, but the screen is blank, you have to ensure that the HDMI cable is connected on the back of the display, on the back of the console, and that it's also connected at the bottom of the display. Console screen appears on the interactive flat panel, but not on the console. That means that you should look at the instructions. So it means that there's not a connection between the computer that's attached to the display, the console, and the display. So we have to check those connection paths. The other thing is make sure that the cable from the HDMI 1 receptacle to the link appliance is connected and then through to the console. Like I said, you have to check all those connections. And if there is no touch control, use the smartboard diagnostic, and we've already covered how to troubleshoot the touch. So for when you're troubleshooting or resolving issues with your camera, it's best to follow the double lamp system again. Okay, so if the video capture light and the service light are both off, this means that you're receiving no power. And what you have to do is go back and check that your camera is connected and that your power, the second cable is connected from your camera to your interactive display. If the video capture light is off and the service light is flashing amber, that means that it's updating the firmware. So, and if it stays in that state for more than, let's say, 2 or 3 minutes, then the next thing you want to do is temporarily disconnect the power from the source at the top of the interactive display to just disconnect it for about 10 seconds and then plug it back in. This will reset. If the video capture light is off and the service light is flashing red, that means we have a hardware error. So again, temporarily disconnect the power and the second cable from the USB from the top of the display, and leave them unplugged for about 10 seconds and then plug them back in. If the video capture light is off and the service light is solid red, that means we have a hardware error. The USB cable is not connected properly. So again, you're going to disconnect the two cables and plug them back in. Leave them disconnected for about 10 seconds. In the next stage, where the video capture light is red and the service light is green, it means it's on, receiving power, but it is not capturing the video. So what we need to do is the camera's video output is not displaying the way it should be. Perform a room test. And the last stage is where the video capture light is green, the service light is green, the camera status is on and capturing video, and the solution is open the privacy shutter. So if we aren't getting any video output and it's not displaying, that means the camera shutter is open. Just open the camera shutter. There's a red dot on it. If it's closed, if it's open, you're going to see the lens. When it comes to resolving issues with the microphones, if the light on the top of the microphone is off, that means it's not receiving power. So then what we're going to do is ensure that the microphones are connected as shown in the installation instructions to the console. Okay, if the light on the top is red, that means it's receiving power, but it's muted. So you have to make sure that you have turned off or turn the no mute button on the console, or unmute it, and also on the microphone pucks also. If the microphone light is green, that means it's on and not muted, and if your participants are unable to hear you from the room, that means that you have to perform a room test. When we're talking about resolving issues with the speakers, if the power light is off, again, it's not receiving power. Ensure that the speakers are connected in accordance with the installation guides, and then do a system check. If the power light is on and the speaker status light is on and you are unable to hear, unmute the audio in the Link Room System software. Try to turn up the volume in the Link Room System software. Ensure that the audio import is set to HDMI 3/PC analog for small rooms, or to audio 2 for the medium or large room setups. If you can hear sound, but it's quiet, turn on the volume in the Link Room System software. And if you can hear sound, but it is distorted or there's feedback, one or more of your remote participants has their microphone open, so ask them to mute their microphones until they want to engage in the discussion. That concludes our session for today. Thank you for watching, and for further information, see smarttech.com.